live productions, TV shows, and more. From state-of-the-art equipment to a very skilled production team, we've got you covered. Step into our modern and spacious studio with a changeable lighting system and foolproof sound. Our touchscreen studio projection monitors come with other features, including Wi-Fi connection, screen mirroring, and a remote workspace mode. Take advantage of our high-quality cameras to shoot in 4K and a variety of the best lighting equipment guaranteed to put life into your sets. Locate us on the first floor of the Silicon House building.
The Ministry of Education that when we bring our documents and they say we should go, we expect that the outcome would be on time because the date for reopening has come out. So sad things like this affect the students. So when we came, though that they have taken our document that we should go, we hear from them. We were here last week and it seems like the same old story. There is a delay in the reflecting of their placement.
The issue is that the first choice, I know her performance, she has aggregate 19. So according to the information that we have, aggregate 19, she should have to get her second choice. But she was given her, I think, her sixth choice, which is a D school. And it's far away from where we are staying. So I was told to come over. So I came here last week with my brother. My brother was also having problem with her placement. So both of us came here. But fortunately, my brother's one has gone to, they have changed it. Mine, they have not done it. And when I make an inquiry, I was told that they will give us a call. Or if they don't give us a call, they will give us a text message. And I'm here since morning. I have not heard about anything. So I don't know what to do. And meanwhile, school has reopened today. And if you don't go, and if you are not fortunate, if you go, they will tell you there is no bed for your child. And it's a problem.
Responding to these concerns, the Deputy Coordinator of the Free SHS Secretariat, Nana Afrasika Mensah, says so far close to 80% of the reported irregularities concerning the school placement from students have been rectified.
You know, when you choose a school, you need to choose a day school within your catchment area. But most of the students didn't do that. They chose a school and then the day school is outside their catchment area, and at the end of the day they need boarding. So that's what we are working on for now. We look at the distance and then we need to change it for them and give them board. Looking at these numbers here, we have close to about 2,000 to 3,000 here, and then we've resolved about 80 to 90% of the issues.
She further advised parents to be more involved in the school selection process of the awards in order to minimize these challenges.
We had sensitization, we did that, we educated parents on that, but at the end of the day, most of them coming here are saying they didn't choose the school for the awards. It's the teachers who did that for them. So I want to use this medium to advise parents that when it's time for school selection, no matter what they are doing, they need to get time for the awards. They need to have ample time, go spend like few hours to select schools for the awards. And I'll also use this medium to advise teachers that whenever it's time for school selection, they shouldn't choose a school for somebody's ward, because they are coming here with so many complaints that they didn't choose a school, but it's the teachers who did that. Any student who come to a school without the parents, when it comes to school selection, they shouldn't help the person.
From the Nat Hall here in Accra, my name is Carlos Coloni for MX24 News.
And that's our reporter Carlos Coloni at the Nat Hall in Accra, where he brought us some details about the issues that parents have been facing after the school placement system. Let me come in studio to Yao Opoku-Mensah, who's here. He's Deputy PRO at the Ministry of Education. And this is my main concern. These issues are not new. You know, it's been recurring over the years, the same issues. Shouldn't we at this point have recognized the issues that keep recurring and fine-tune the system to address that?
Yeah, let me say good evening to yourself and to our lovely viewers. Just as you said, every year we fine-tune the system. If you follow the pattern that we started with school placement from 3, 4, 5, now we are doing 6. It gives a clearer understanding how the process, we want the process to be and how we are fine-tuning it. But from all indication, you get to realize that the difficulty has got to do with the communication in there, where parents on the other side and teachers doing it the blank side of the student or the parent. So at the end of the day, when I stay. And these are some of the challenges that across the length and breadth of the country, that is what we are getting. But if you put all together, you get a firm belief that from the days where it started, even from last 2 years, you could see that there is a certain pattern, and the pattern points to a certain positive direction. The only difficulty has got to do with the involvement of parents in ensuring that what actually the school that they prefer is chosen, and that is what appears on their records. And that is where some of the parents probably may find themselves in relation to the sound clip that was played.
I see some also mentioned that they did choose a certain school, but it's probably their very last choice. How does the system skip from... is there a reason for...
Sure, the system works on merit. It's purely
Okay.
on merit.
Okay.
It's got to do with your... the marks that you are coming in, that is your raw marks or your aggregate that you are coming in with.
Some of them say they did well, they did pass, they got good grades, but the
But you
system
can
gives
get
them...
just what the father said. The kid got towards 16, and he was told that definitely he has to get a second job. That is not how it works. For example, we may choose the same school. I come in with a different mark. You also come in with a different mark. We all choose the same program. Now here it's a survival of the fittest. Now those who are coming in with strong marks definitely will have to displace me. And once the system moves, then let's say we choose science. Science has a capacity to pick 30, and then the marks that are coming in there, I wouldn't be part of the 30. So what happens is that I have to move to my second choice. My second choice is somebody's first choice. So therefore, we need to look at it from that first choice angle before we come to look at whether if there is space for the one who chooses as a second choice. Then if probably we can fix, your marks will allow that, then we fix you in there. But if you don't get it as your second choice, now it moves to your third choice. Now on your third choice is somebody's first choice and somebody's second choice, just as the first and the second pattern is. So it will get to a point where you will get a space within the number of choices that you made. That is what somebody gets in the sixth choice, a choice that a person made. That is what the marks and the system allowed in there. So it's purely based on merit, and it's purely based on what you are bringing on board, the program of choice, the accommodation pattern as well. So we wouldn't sit in the office and be placing students anyhow. It's purely based on what you are bringing on board, and that is how the system.
Does it make mistakes though?
Oh, genuinely. You remember before the release of the placement, now we sent out all the choices that students made back to them to confirm that if there is any anomaly, then you draw attention to it quickly. We have to fix it and resend it back to you when it is done, so that there wouldn't be a situation whereby when it comes and you tell us that I didn't choose the school. So that is why we did that was what we did. Mistakes are bound to happen. This is a human institution as well, but genuinely all the concerns that comes evident of what you've played, you get to realize that none from our end, purely based on whether parents weren't following well, or the allegation of a teacher choosing a school for somebody. That is what pans out in there. So we are still working on it, just as the coordinator said. 80% of the complaints that comes are dealt with. But what parents should understand is that we take the complaint, go and work on it, then you get the result. You don't get an instant result at the very end where you are doing the complaint.
Right. The coordinator also mentioned that some centers had been established.
Across, within
how many centers?
Every region has got a center. Every region
so it's
has
16
a center.
centers.
Sure. Every region has a center right at the regional education office. So you go in there.
So why do you still have so much crowd at Nat Hall?
This is Accra. That is the capital.
But if they're getting solutions at their regions, will they still come on the way?
If you listen to what a parent says, he says, I came here, I was told this, I want to get the result instantly. He's sitting and wanting to get the result before he moves. And that is why when you come today, I was there today. And you get to realize, a man came to me, please, I've given my documents to them. My expectation is that they can say, oh, that is not an instant result as you're looking for. We are taking all the complaints.
So these solutions take time.
Oh, yes. It depends on the challenge that you are bringing. So, genuinely, you've been placed in a school. You want to change the school. We need to look at whether the school that you prefer do have vacancy for you. So we need to do all these cross checks.
And if they will accept you, if you fit in.
Yeah, if there is a vacancy, then we are comfortable placing you there. You definitely will be accepted if there is vacancy for you.
No, when I say accepted, I mean if your grades match what they are requesting, right?
No, it depends on the subject area.
Okay.
It depends on the subject area. Now, once you are transitioned from GHS to SHS, where the grade play, the raw marks play, it is a transition. Once you do qualify to be placed in any school. But the school of choice should have that space for you before we can do that placement for you. So if there is no space, then we need to come around to ensure that we get a space for you to satisfy whatever you're looking for. Some are based on distance, as the girl said. She didn't know what she was choosing.
Okay.
And she even alleged that a teacher did that for her. Fortunately, she got that school. So she wants...
So most of these issues, if I'm understanding you properly, are more of errors from the side of the students than from the system specifically.
Yes, yeah. The biggest of the challenge emanates from the base.
Okay.
So if we get the base right, we wouldn't be having so much of these complaints.
I hear you, Mr. Opoku-Mensah. Let me just bring in Divine Pay, who is also on Zoom with us. He's a research analyst at Africa Education Watch. I'll be going shortly to Peter Anti, also. He's executive director at the Institute for Education Studies. But Divine, has the Africa Education Watch been following the school placement system?
Yeah, definitely. We were following.
What have been your observations so far?
Of course, we've noticed reoccurrence of some of the challenges that characterize previous placements. We've seen replay of some of them this year, although on a lower scale. But still, what has been happening regarding issues with students complaining of not getting their preferred choice of school, and then also students complaining of not getting any placement at all. These are some of the issues that we've noticed. And then also this year, we've also noticed that there has been a decline in the automatic placement. In 2019, it was 74%. In 2020, it decreased to 69%. And then 2021, it fell to 64%. The system is designed to address some of the challenges characterized with placement. So our expectation would have been that would have seen more of automatic placement. The percentage increase should be higher than what we are seeing. The more we get more of the students automatically being placed, we believe strongly that we would have seen less of students complaining about not getting. So that is it. So that's some observations.
Right. In a moment, I'll be back to you, but I'm going to go to Peter Anti, just for him to give me his initial observations also. And I want to find out if why the percentage keeps dropping instead of increasing as observed by the Africa Education Watch. If Peter is not able to give me that, I'll just come back to Mr. Opoku-Mensah. So Peter, thank you for joining us on Spotlight. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
Right. Have you made any observations concerning the computerized placement system and the issues that are being encountered by students? Mr. Opoku-Mensah has mentioned that it's more of student errors than system errors. Divine Pay has also mentioned an observation where the automatic placement percentage keeps dropping instead of increasing.
Yeah, for us, we think that the problem is more of the challenges the parents and students who are supposed to fill the form create more than the system itself. Over the years, we've seen an improvement in the system. I think after the Independence Square incidents, we have seen a little bit of improvement with the technology that have been employed to place the students. The problem which we picked, and we've been talking about this for some time now, is that mostly those who are to take maximum interest in this, I mean the parents and the students, do not do that. So they leave it to teachers and sometimes the students themselves to select the schools. They do not understand the operations of the computer placement system. They think that they can select schools which they fantasize about and not schools that really match up to their capabilities. So at the end of the day, when the placements are released, you see them find themselves wanting. So that is basically our observation. We've been asking that a lot more education goes into this. We've been asking that government, I mean the Ministry of Education, ensures that the training program for, I mean the sensitization program for parents is enhanced and maybe made a little more compulsory on a school-by-school basis, so that we'll be able to minimize this. We are certainly sure that if we're able to deal with this problem of lack of information and education about the system, almost like 80 to 90% of the problem with the placement system will be solved.
I see. But there's also some comments about just completely scrapping that system and allowing the placements to revert to how it was done in the beginning. In fact, we have the GIMPA rector who's also made such comments. Is this something that the Institute for Education Studies agrees with?
No. There was a reason why we resorted to the computer placement system. I think that the manual way of school selection is far gone. It's outmoded, and we will need to just address the challenges with the computer placement system and ensure that it works more effectively. We need to maybe make it more user-friendly in terms of remove the human interface. That's what I mean. Remove the human interface from it a little bit more, so that we'll be able to get the maximum importance of this system. There's no way we have to go back to a manual system where the headmasters of the school were so much powerful. They would close their offices and will not allow any for about 2 weeks. When schools are about to reopen, you will not see the headmaster.
I'm part of that system, and it was a very smooth system. Yes, I remember during my time when I got there, everybody's name was there perfectly. I mean, if you qualified to be in the school, and if you were not qualified, the headmistress was there to explain to you. It was very easy.
Yes, but you understand that the power of the headmistress or the headmaster during those times was enormous. They also selected the bright students, and sometimes those who had certain schools in recent times would not have had those schools if we were using the manual system. So for us, we think that technology is good. We are using it in a very more useful way, but we have certain challenges. It doesn't mean that we should scrap the whole system. We have to fix it and make sure it works perfectly for us.
Right, but I think the argument is that we can still use technology, but allow the schools to do their own selections. In fact, we do have a record of the former GIMPA rector speaking on that. So let's just listen to him quickly and come back to the discussion.
Okay.
In Ghana, out of all the levels of school, it's only secondary school that there's computer placement. There is a time for us to evaluate it. Those computers, who operate them, is it not human beings? Is it not human beings? The school authorities, the headmaster, should be allowed within a certain framework, a majority, of course, on merit. But there's a place for all students. There's a place for the church. There's a place for children of staff. There's a place, a small portion for protocol. The school authorities should be allowed within a certain framework to admit their own students. And who said when they were admitting their own students, they were admitting chaff? And who said when computer admits them, they are necessarily admitting geniuses? There's need for evaluation and even fanciful. And at a stakeholders conference like this, we can't make that case then indeed Ghana is the poorer for it.
So there you go. Peter, you were saying that it gave the headmasters and headmistresses too much power, but that's the question. Is it not human beings who are operating these computers also? And isn't it giving those human beings behind the computers the same power that we're trying to avoid giving the heads of schools?
Yes, it's true. There are human beings who are operating these things, and it is also true that some people are using this as an opportunity to exploit others. But the fact still remains that if you leave it in the hands of the schools, the exploitation will be a little bigger than what we are experiencing now. I might subscribe to a decentralized system. But we will have to understand how that system is going to work so far as we are having people at the regional or at the, and he is even advocating for a school-based, school-level placement system, which I think it is going to be a little bit difficult for us to implement.
Right.
But as I'm saying, if we need to implement a decentralized system, maybe we want to look at it from a regional, on a regional basis, or maybe a district base. But to do it at the school level will be problematic from my perspective.
Right. Peter, let me just come to Mr. Opoku Mensah in studio. We've listened to the same submission. Is it not human beings?
No, there is no going back.
Is it not human beings who are operating the computers? Yes.
Now,
are we not giving those human beings too much power?
If you listen to him at the tail end, he says, we're reserved for staff, for nananum, etc. That is still part of the system. 5% of the allocations or 5% of the intake is given out to the school to do that. So the staff is sorted out, all students are sorted out, and whoever nananum are sorted out within that 5% aspect. So that is dealt with. But again, you ask yourself, in the days of old, where headmasters will sit in a conference room where the cards are brought, and they will be, so who go where? So you pick the bright student, who takes the others. It should be a balanced thing, whether we like it or not.
But the schools have grades.
Grades what?
Yeah, it's different grades of schools. So there are people who qualify to go to a school and its requirements, they go there.
No, we can't have that old system back. I was part of the old system. Definitely, you know,
right,
where cards will be hidden, where headmaster will tell you, somebody will tell you, my school is full. And a backdoor dealing will be going on. And these were complaints that were coming from the general public. That is why the computerized placement system was introduced. And again, the biggest challenge of which has been identified on this show has got to, we need to deepen the education. And we need to, just as the deputy coordinator said, we need to enforce it and ensure that parents are present in the education of the selection of schools for their awards. And again, I keep on stressing, teachers, our mandate is only to advise. We can only advise parents on that. For example, if I were to be a head teacher,
but you can't mention more engagement, more training.
Listen, we go down there, we call parents to come so we can educate them. We do education on radio, but you'll be astonished that the numbers that even troop in there to even have a look or listen up to what is happening. Ask yourself, we have a system whereby we resend back the schools.
Maybe do it
that
through the
you
PTA.
Selected. But I don't know whether you've been to any PTA meeting before at the basic level. How many parents are willing to come in there?
Right.
With the exception of those big schools that we do know. Okay. So I advise parents that if you don't have time for your ward today, in future where you are on retirement, that is where you will have that maximum attention for your son or daughter, and it will be too late. So we need to tackle that now. And at the Ministry of Education, we can't force parents to come and sit, but again, we need to tell them right in the face, that is your son or daughter. Take keen interest in whatever education is receiving. And again, parents who don't even, how many parents do even visit their schools to check whether if their sons and daughters are doing well or not? How many do even call out, reach out to their formasters to get information about their kids? The only excuse that we give out is that we are busy, we are going to the market to make money. Money for who? It is for my education. So just spend some few minutes with your the school that your ward attends and get every briefing in there so that we can have a smooth system. So again, it goes back to my colleague teachers. when it is time for placement, your duty is to advise, please stop selecting school for people. And that is why they are blaming you. I didn't know my teacher selected the school for me. And where is the teacher to answer that answer that claim? Whether if it is true,
the teacher was probably just helping out.
Definitely, but you ask yourself, were the parents involved? If they were involved, then the parents wouldn't have any complaint to do. Right. So I think we need to intensify the education. We need to visit churches and mosques. We need to go to the market square. Rather than probably waiting for parents to sit in a school in a form of PTA. I think next year going forward, I will tell my team that we need to get to the market square. Now we have to force the information on them.
Take it to where the parents are gathered and working.
Yes. So we cannot go back to the days of old where cats were being
So you don't agree
picked.
with the director?
No. The director's concern has got to do with the non-involvement of schools. Then that is not true. The non-involvement, that is not the case.
Well, you were talking about 5%, but he's probably expecting a higher percentage for these categories that you are talking about.
No. A percentage for what? You pick your own 100% student that will be coming in there or what? That is not how the system has played out from 2005. So you should be able to deal with everybody. And the system gives you those who do qualify for your school.
Right. I just need you to quickly touch on Divine's, one of his concerns about the decreasing percentage.
That can be deliberate. It's got to do with how the system do operate and the aggregates in there and the raw score which is coming in. So I think with the percentages that is mentioning, we can look at the numbers from those who do qualify for placement every year and see. Just on the percentage value will give it will be quite deceptive. But if you look at the numbers as the system runs, you get to realize that it's not exactly a decline. Got to do with the number that is coming in. Some are huge. It's not a constant number. So I think
maybe you should be engaging them further to understand.
He has stopped calling me. He should be calling me for all the conversation.
Divine, are you on the line?
Oh yeah.
I'm telling them to engage you. He said you stopped calling.
Divine has stopped calling.
Have you blocked his number?
No, my brother. Instead of you calling me, he's reduced. Is that?
You see,
but you to call him. If he hasn't called you, to call.
Look at the season that we are in. Look at the season we find ourselves. So please call me. Let us engage more. And I think let me commend them. Very observant on what is happening, and useful suggestions as well. And I think we can sit around the table, do a discussion on that. But still, we will come to a center. And I think this on the spotlight, what we've been able to identify on this show is to intensify the education that we give out to the public. And we wouldn't have this.
Can I come in?
Yes, absolutely. Just give us your.
All right, a quick one before I proceed to make my point. If you look at it, the number of students that are qualifying for placement each year keeps increasing.
Okay.
In 2019, we're talking about 473,728. And then in 2020, it increased to 494,530. Like this particular one we are dealing with, it increased to 555,353. So if the number qualifying is increasing and then the automatic placement is decreasing, then of course it tells that there's a problem there. But however, I agree with Peter and then my brother then that yes, the education needs to go down, because if you listen to some of the clips you play, obviously it's about the fact that people don't understand how the system works, and education will help. But away from the education, strongly, I believe that there's a pressure on category A and B schools. Most of these students, then they want to go to these categories of schools, and at times, unfortunately, their grades could not meet what they will need to go to such school. And yet, they also don't want to go to the lesser grade schools, mainly because the state of infrastructure in such schools are not to expectation. if we get to a point of improving infrastructure in the lesser grade schools, I believe that it will increase demand for such schools too. And once we get to that point, the pressure is reduced on category A and B schools. We can get high percentage of students that will be automatically placed. So we need to consider that aside education that needs to go to parents, we have to consider improving infrastructure. One of the issues we continue to talk about is the fact that educational resources are not equitably distributed. You see big schools getting more, when even they have formidable old students given to them, government seems to be giving to them even the more. So we need to give priority to lesser category schools and improve the state. Right now, if you look at the self-placement opportunity that is available, the schools that are available, you will notice that most of them, they do not have boarding facilities. And then a child will have to select that school, implying that if the child selects a school without a boarding facility, that child will need to get a hostel fee. On average, we can talk about, let's say, 2,500. The parent will need to pay electricity bill. They'll have to be buying water, a feeding all over there. It tells you that the free SHS that is meant targeting the poor, again, we are taking those students out of the equation, because now they are going to select schools without boarding facilities. They have to look at their own issues, and they are going to pay. And the people who have attended good schools, have good grades, and then they are getting the boarding facility, they are getting good schools. For me, I think somehow it defeats the purpose of the Free Sena High School, which is mainly to target this people from the disadvantaged economic background. So let's look at how best we improve facility in these schools, so that even if they have to select lower grade school, at least they have boarding facilities, they have other facilities in the school that will make learning, the environment looks like, yes, this is indeed a learning environment. Once we are able to do that, the pressure will reduce on the grade 1 and then the grade 2 schools, and we can get a higher percentage of students to be automatically placed. Right. I must also place on record that, yes, the education is very important, because some of the people, the self-placement, they need not even to go to the resolution center to go and get the issue resolved. But you see them going there. Self-placement, you could just be even going to a cafe to get that resolved. But they were going there. Somebody said, my child had grade 19, should get second choice. It doesn't work like that. So obviously, the picture is clearly painted that there's a lack of understanding of how the system works. And then another point to the fact whether we should do away with the system and go back to the manual way of doing it. I'm not sure that is where we want to go, because we need to progress. If there's a challenge with the system, let's look for a solution other than trying to go back to where we used to be. People indeed, head teachers were cashing out big on the automatic system, the manual system. They were paying people, they'll have to take money from parents before admission. We don't need to get back to that level. Let's improve the system so that we can deliver very well on it. So for me, that is right.
Thank you so much, Divine. Actually, that was going to be my last question to you before we move on to the double track system. So there's some planned reversal of the double track system in senior high schools. For some people, this has come as a relief. For some others, so let me come in studio to Yapoku Mensah. Has the double track system been abolished?
The understanding of double track that we used to know is no more for this academic year.
Okay.
And if you follow the activities of the Ministry of Education, when we announced the new academic calendar, we indicated in there that as part of the transitional calendar, first years will go out as one cohort, second year will do the same. So currently, the second years that are in school, we don't have that division. Others are in and others are in the house. They are all in school as we speak for the Form 2s. The same thing applies to the
So they'll go to school as one cohort?
Yes, the Form 2s are in school now. There isn't any division among them. They are in school. Form 1s are also going to school as one cohort. Basically, that is what is
facing out.
Yeah, we do study the system and the numbers which are coming in. For example,
so it's a numbers thing.
Yeah, we look at the numbers, and again, then we look at the infrastructure the government is doing. 1,130 of them, different projects in our schools. So, for example, if you go to TMAs, they do have a 24 classroom block, a girls' dormitory, a boys' dormitory as well. So you see the expansion of infrastructure, and this is dotted across the length and breadth of the country. So therefore, it eases the pressure on existing infrastructure. So that is the path that we are going. And then we said that this was an interim measure. In announcing the double track, we announced that
we're told to take 5 to 7 years.
Whilst we increase the infrastructure, then there are some schools that are hesitant from last year hesitant from the double tracking system. Kumasi, for example, is not doing tracking. So it got to do with whilst we increase the infrastructure in the school, then it's been phased out. So currently we don't have students on track.
So different schools will phase out at different times, based on the infrastructure that's available to them.
So others are hesitant. For example, I know probably if the TMAs will be hesitant, Konongo Okies will be hesitant. It's got to do with the increment in infrastructure in these schools. As I mentioned, 1,130 of them across the length and breadth of the country. So that is what we are looking at. So until we get to the last limit, so that is what will happen. So we're praying. I believe you are only hoping to see the normal days where we have Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, or the seniors are in school and the juniors are coming in there to have a feel of the oath. So we'll get there, and as part of the interim measure, we review it as we move forward. So let's be rest assured that we'll get to the old system that you enjoyed most.
Have the school heads been spoken to about this? Because you still have some of them worried about the stress it will put on their infrastructure in their schools. Do they understand the phasing out?
We've met heads on a couple of occasions. Right. For example, in the last 2 months or so, in Kumasi for 4 days, I even moderated the program myself. Headmasters, we sat even there. It wasn't a program whereby the minister will be doing the talking alone. We went in there to listen to headmasters and their concerns and help and address their concerns. So that is basically what we did in Kumasi. And it wasn't only for the grammar school, only the grammar school, even the TVET schools. So that is why we are giving them resources day in and day out. Cars are being supplied, buildings, virtual labs, etc. So in all, the plan is to have a good, I wouldn't describe it, we can have a perfect system, have a befitting system for everybody so that we can have a meaningful education. So headmasters, whether, I don't know the kind of pressure that we are referring to here, but we've engaged and there's Form 2s are in them. We are not hearing any complaints of any difficulty. Form 1s are getting in there. Basically, we wouldn't be having such problems. So we are on top of the issues, and we are still ready to listen to any difficulty where a headmaster will have and quickly move in to help solve the issue.
Right. Let me speak to Peter briefly. Peter, listening to Mr. Opoku-Mensah and the observation that schools are gradually phasing off the system, from your point, does this in any way improve teaching and learning or affect it in any other way? Peter, Auntie, are you still on the line? I mean, if we're not getting him there, let me just go to Divine.
So can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you now.
All right. So I'm saying that double track was a good system. We were one of the earliest institutions that supported the system because we had a peculiar challenge during that time. We have decided to phase it out and replace it with the cohort system. I think that we should understand that there are challenges that will come with this, especially when it comes to the number of students that will be able to access some of these category A schools, because what double track technically did was to double the enrollment and enable a lot more students to access this school. than they initially could. So if we are facing it out, and we are now going to ensure that if it's so first years will all be in, and second years and all those things, we should understand that it's going to lead to a lot more kids not accessing some of these schools that initially they would have had access to. But to talk about it improving, the phasing out, improving teaching and learning, you see, one of the things that we have to be very frank with, and I know it's not a popular position, but for me and for us who normally do some of these research work, one of the things that Double Track actually did was to improve teacher to student ratio. And because we were able to now reduce the number of students in the class and ensure that the teachers have a lot more time for them. Now, if we are going to have the system that we are reverting to, the core system, and all the kids being in school, it technically means that we are going to have challenges with the number of students teachers are going to handle, which will boil down to not achieving the requisite teacher to student ratio, which is supposed to be 1:35 or 1:25 or so. So we are going to have challenges with that. Although there will be a considerable number of time periods that the teachers will be able to meet these students, we still think that we should have a more long-term plan to solve the challenges that necessitated the introduction of the double track. And by this, we are thinking that we need to rather resort to the model school system, where we decided to upgrade certain schools in certain districts to match up with the category A schools. I think that is the more advanced way that we can go to deal with the challenges that are likely to come with the eradication or the phasing out of the double track system. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. Let me just go to Divine, see if he shares the opinion or has something contrary. Divine, from the Africa Education Watch, looking at the slow phasing out of schools from the double track system, does this improve our education?
We should be happy that we are gradually getting back to the single track. We all know that the double track hasn't been the best. And I always say, my brother sitting there will even admit that the ministry themselves, they know that it's not the best. That is why they are still working hard to get it back to single track.
But it has advantages, right? Because, I mean, Peter just said that it increased student to teacher contact, which is a good thing for learning.
Well, we must know that we are trying to get back to the single track. It doesn't mean the students are going back to the same classroom that the schools already were having. So infrastructure work has been done. In 2017, when government introduced this double track, or free SHS and double track came in, government also initiated the construction of some infrastructure work in campuses, and we are talking about 1,135, comprising of classroom, dormitory, administration block, libraries, canteen. As we speak, this year, 2022, 58% of this have been completed. But when we take the classroom and then dormitory alone, the percentage is about 80%. So I'm sure the students, we are going back to single track. So there are some more accommodation, extra accommodation that have been provided to add up to what they already have. And therefore, not that they are going to be congested in the classroom. I don't think they will be congested, because some provision has been made so that when it gets back, we revert back to single track, the schools can be able to accommodate. Of course, I know the number would have increased just a bit, but I'm sure to be within the margin that is expected for standard classroom size. So for me, I'm happy that we are still within the time frame, the 7 years period government gave us. By 2024, as government indicated, that will be getting back to the single track. I'm sure that is very feasible, because works have been progressing. As I mentioned, when it comes to dormitory and classroom, which is the most important aspect, 80% work has been done. But when we add the other ones, like administration block, library, canteen, that's where it will reduce the percentage to like 58%. So we should be happy that we are gradually seeing the transition to get to single track. I know a good number of schools that were doing double track have gone back to single track because accommodation work has been improved in them. We will never ever finish solving accommodation issues because in our schools, of course, because the more we talk, the population keeps increasing. We are able to, we have backlogs even to clear. At the primary level, there are backlogs that you must clear before even to begin to adapt to more to accommodate the increasing population. The same thing at the senior high school level. But I believe government, we need to get back to the single track, and when there will be challenges to see how best that could be dealt with.
Okay, thank you, Divine. We seem to be running out of time, but if you can just give me your last remarks on that, on both the school placement and the double track, and then I can come to your other colleagues.
Right, so as I indicated, that this free SHS is meant for people from lower income background. And as it currently stands, the system, because it is unable, if you always study the system works by merit. And therefore, if a child fails or has a weaker grade, that child is likely to be unable to be placed in school. And if you look at the BC, it is children from those backgrounds that are having the poorer grade. It tells you that, and meanwhile, the free SHS should be targeting them the more. So we should look at how best we address the challenge so that we not use weaker grade to get some of these students out of the system because they have been unable to place in a school. And that tells the fact that we need to improve infrastructure in lower grade school. Because even still they have to do self-placement because the self-placement, that one will surely have an opportunity to self-place, but it means they are going to pay. And the essence of the free SHS targeting them will not be achieved. They have to pay for hostel, they have to pay for electricity, they have to feed themselves. All those ones will be disadvantaged. So I will appeal to government that needs to channel resources to these lower grade schools so that infrastructure work can be improved.
Right, improving infrastructure in lower grade schools. That's Divine Pay from, who's a research analyst at the Africa Education Watch. Peter, if I can get your last remarks in a minute, please.
I think that policies are made to address specific challenges at specific points in time in the life of an educational system. And therefore, when we implement policies, we should be ready to look into the challenges that comes with the implementation of that particular policy and find ways and means to go around it. So there is no need for us to revert to the old system in terms of the school placement. We should look at the challenges and then address it heads on as we move forward. Again, with the idea of going back to the single track system, I think that the double track came in at a time that we needed it most. We still have to improve the infrastructure at our various secondary schools to be able to achieve the kind of quality education that we need to provide for our wards. It's also important to state that parents should be aware that whilst we take off the double track system, people who might have had access to some of these category A schools because of the double track system might not be able to get it. And that is something that we need to frankly say it as it is. We need to improve the infrastructure in other places, I think in other schools, to ensure that some of these students will still get the kind of education that those in category A schools are getting. And these are two important points for me.
Thank you, Peter. Peter Anti is the Executive Director at the Institute for Education Studies, and he's echoing similar sentiments with Divine Pay. But does Yao Opoku Mensa agree with their sentiments?
Oh, yes. Classroom management is vital to quality education, and the class size matters.
And the infrastructure in lower grades.
Sure, that is why I give the statistics as to what government is doing. And I give examples of how some of these infrastructure has got into. That is what Divine rightly said, that others have failed on as we move on. So it's part of the building up the model schools as well, to get to the level of where everybody anticipates to go. But again, that we still can't take it away from people have built a tradition for so long. Definitely, immediately you think of a secondary school to come to mind. So we need to build a base. And the assurance that I want to give to parents and to students is that until the last students get to school. We are not resting. So the system is created for them. The system is designed to assist and ensure that they are satisfied with the process. But they should also be mindful that we cannot all be in the pre-6.
Right.
We cannot all be in the Achimotes. We cannot all be in the best secondary school in Ghana, which is Osei Chichi Senior High School.
Which the best secondary school in Ghana is every girl's secondary school.
Please, I'm coming from the Ministry of Education. You need to take my as an official one. So that is what we're doing. So they should be rest assured.
Right.
We are working in their interest. And again, we want to have a meaningful education, classroom well managed, sizable for the teacher to be able to deliver.
Thank you so much.
But we are not going back to the days of
system. He's a deputy PRO at the Ministry of Education. Let me just make a correction here that the best secondary school in Ghana is a Brigel Secondary School. My name is Noong Palong. Thank you for joining us on Spotlights on MX24 Television. Good evening.